Good morning. Starting the day off with a seed delivery. Get our truck unloaded. Well, that filled up our empty aisle there pretty quickly. A full truckload of these 30-35s. We've got 2 rows, although the ones in the back there's 9 boxes of some 3-3s that we didn't have room for over here. So I don't know if that's all of them or not. There might be more of those coming. I know there's some more of the 2.8s that go next to it coming yet. So anyway, I gotta go get the boys. We have a 2-hour delay in school today because it's foggy out. We're gonna work on this treater here later today. We'll see what's going on down at the farm, and I don't know if our parts will come today. Probably not today. So I probably won't be putting anything back together on the planner just yet. Okay, the boys had a fog delay for school today, but we are on our way to take them to school. Had our crop insurance meeting here this morning, so we'll talk about that when I get back a little bit more in depth on crop insurance, what we're doing, what our thoughts are for the year. I'm not a big fan of insurance in general. I'm not a big fan of crop insurance, but it's one of those things that you kind of got to have it. So anyway, I'll be back in a few minutes. All right, well, we made it back, got the boys to school. Got a package today. It's got those hose barb things that we had broken off the corn planter, so we can get that put on. Xander's getting the rest of these front row units done, the ones underneath that are a pain in the butt to get to, and then we can get those gauge wheels and stuff off and disassembled. Since we've got all these rows apart here, I'm changing some of these seed firmers, putting these flow right ones in these brackets, and we'll get them changed over, so that's done. So you know how I said we take all these things apart and we're inspecting and trying to make sure that we're finding everything that needs to be replaced? How did he do that? How did he get that opener off there with that gauge wheel arm in place? And we screwed up our shims. Well, that'll be fun. Anyway, anything look different on that row than the one over there next to it? Anything at all? We seem to have broken our seed tube guard off. She gone. Wow. Those are not easy to break. Okay. Well, we gotta take this off, and I don't know if we have any in the parts bin. We might have an old style one, something, but we gotta fix that. All right, well, I did not find any of these aftermarket versions. So the ones we run on this planner here are these Exapta Valiant seed tube guards. They're very, there's a lot of meat to them, right? This is really thick. This part is really thick. They do a pretty good job. They last a long time. This is the manufacturer version, what John Deere has. And clearly, the width, this thickness is the same, but it's not nearly as significant, right? Like, this wears out much, much faster. However, I have it. It's here. And we might as well wear one out. So I'll put that one on there, and we'll put this back together, and that one will be different. But it'll do the job just until it wears out. Okay. Well, there's that. Now we got to wait for our blades to come. Well, we could lower the top, the back rank. Keep working on taking those apart. It's a little crowded back here when you get all this stuff laying here and back rank down, but that's okay. We'll do what we got to do. It's let's see, it's almost lunchtime already, and it's Thursday. I'm taking off early today. I will explain later, but Xander's not coming tomorrow, so really we've only got this afternoon that we're trying to, find stuff to do to keep busy here. So if we get quit a little early today and we don't get to those back ones, we should have our openers by Monday. It's probably the best case. Well, let's come back down here and finish working on our treater. It feels colder in here. Did my heat change? Nope, 50 degrees. I'll turn it up for a little bit. 55. Okay. We got to change these tubes, the squeeze pump, peristaltic pump tubes, and make sure we got everything hooked up. We got a couple hoses and wires and plugs and that kind of stuff get hooked up. So here's one of our hoses that I took off, and you can kind of see how it's a little flatter right here, and it's very soft. I can squeeze it really easy, where down here where it hasn't been in the pump, it's much firmer. It takes a lot more effort to squeeze it and collapse it. That's why we're replacing it, just because they get wore out. So the way that those work, let me turn a light on here, is there's a what we call a peristaltic pump here. Essentially, there's a pump with a bunch of rollers on it. We put the hose in there and squeeze it down, and as that turns, it pulls liquid through that hose and pumps it. It's super accurate, it works really well, but your hoses wear out over time. And every time I try and move the hoses just a little bit, so it's not always in exactly the same spot. But as you can see on here, we've definitely got a spot that's much more worn than other ones. That's why we replace them every year, start fresh. So, but you gotta have just the right type of hose. It's sort of expensive stuff. We'll match it up, just cut what we need. We got plenty for this year. We might even have enough for next year on that hose. All right, I got those hoses changed. So that is good to go. I put them in there, but I did not close down those pumps, because you want to leave them open so that you're not compressing them, hoses, and yeah, it's a whole thing. So anyway, I also put our filters back on. We had those off to clean them out. So all that is good. I did notice we have a little wheat down there. So I got the shop vac out. We're gonna climb up there and clean that out. All right, so now that's cleaned out. So this is our slide gate. It's on a little electric cylinder, and it moves that gate. There's like 1,000 positions or 10,000 positions, maybe, I don't know, to precisely control the flow of the grain. And it uses this platform that's on a scales to measure the loss in weight to control that. So we shoot for, I can do up to 800 pounds per minute. A lot of times I only run it at 700. But yeah, that's what that is for. Right here we have a proximity sensor. Can you see that? No, there's no light there. And that senses when there is beans or seed next to it to know whether or not it can turn on or off. So when a box runs empty and this sensor is no longer sensing grain there, it kills the pumps. It continues to run the auger until things clear out. So, and then when it closes. Basically, I pause the flow. It shuts the auger off. We put a new box up here, and once that senses it, you push continue, and it takes off on the next box. So, all right, we gotta find a way down from up here. Okay, I got that platform cleaned off there. Got the man lift and my knockoff gator pushed out of the way over there. We're gonna get our box put back up. So the way that I like to do this when I'm treating is I leave a box on the treater all the time. I take the box of beans that we are going to treat and dump them into the box that's already on the treater, put the empty that we just got underneath the auger. We treat the beans back into the box that they came out of. So that's generally how I do it. I've got this fancy box opener so that I can open it while it's way up high, and that works pretty good. So I shot back the outside of this box off a little bit. It was pretty dusty from the wheat. I was just cleaning it out. Every now and then you get some of this right on this edge. We want to make sure we get all of those kernels off of there. Look up in the box, make sure that there's nothing stuck up in the corners or anything like that. So looks pretty good. Just thought we'd double check and shake it good. Side benefit of doing it this way is that once I get this box positioned over the little center ring there, or whatever you want to call it, I don't have to move it, and so can't see it very good, but I've tore those up in the past, putting boxes on and off or taking them off. You get the little rubber piece here stuck. See how that's just curled down on that edge there? Now I can reach in there and I can actually fix it and get that right where we want it, so it's sealed and it's not hitting the wood runners at all. And now this box doesn't move, so we don't have to worry about it. And that makes that piece last a lot longer, and it's a lot cleaner. We don't spill the beans on the top of the platform like when you're moving boxes every time. All right, well, we're getting some space cleared out in here, so I think we're sitting in pretty good shape. I'm going to make a phone call to the first guy, or one of the guys that I want to take some seed to, and see if he would be willing to take it on, say, Monday, and then we can treat those beans tomorrow. All right, well, I have got that seed stuff lined up, what we're going to do. I didn't get a hold of one guy, I did the other guy, another one, or a couple other ones, though, so we got some stuff to deliver next week, which means we have some beans to treat, so that is good. Wanted to talk about it, mentioned it briefly this morning, but one of the other big things that we did today was make some decisions on crop insurance. So let's talk about crop insurance a little bit. I know this one can get controversial, and so I'm going to do my best to frame it and explain it, but I'm not an expert. I'm not the best person to talk about this. I just buy it. So let me get a drink before I choke and cough the whole through this segment on camera. Hold on. Okay, that's better. I might have to go grab that again. So, crop insurance. What is crop insurance? Well, basically, the federal government allows us to use a subsidized insurance program to help protect our farms from losses from things like weather and pricing, price markets declining and stuff. And so I know that there are much more options and things within the crop insurance game than what I am going to talk about, and than what I am familiar with, and then what I have experience with. So I'm just going to talk about the little bit that I have a very basic understanding of. And if you have more to add to it, feel free to leave it in the comments or make a response video on one of my other platforms. Anyway, so we buy a revenue protection, or RP, crop insurance coverage. And basically what that means is that the insurance company is going to look at our APH, which stands for actual production history, or average production history. Basically, they look at the last 10 years of our yields and come up with a production history by crop for our farm. Now, the other side of this is that it also breaks that out by county. And since we farm not only in multiple counties, but multiple states, we actually have several different policies that are all split up based on which county that they happen to fall in. So what they're going to do then is look at, say, our Michigan ground is all, not all, but mostly all in Hillsdale County, Michigan. And so they're going to look at any fields that we have that are within Hillsdale County, Michigan, and we're going to take an average yield for all of those fields, and that's going to, and then we're going to look at that, for the last 10 years, or every year that we had corn there for the last 10 years, or every year that we've had, bean yields for the last 10 years, whatever it is, and that is our APH. I'm not going to tell you our exact APH. We're going to use round numbers for the purpose of this demonstration and say that our APH for corn is 200. 200 bushels is what our proven history is, our average yields over the last 10 years, which maybe, 10 years ago in 2017, say, we had 175 bushel corn, but last year maybe we had 225, and they average out and they all fell somewhere in that line, right? That would average out to 200. So you take that number, and then you take the price. And the price is set by averaging every day for the month of February. Okay, that's our spring price guarantee, which according to the paperwork that I saw today is $4.65 per bushel. Now that is a futures price, not a local cash price, right? Okay, so the futures price is $4.65, our APH is 200. We do some math on that, and we end up with a guarantee of whatever that math works out to. I should have a calculator that's not on my phone so I can figure that out. I'm trying to look and see if I have one. I have one. I lied, I don't have a calculator. But 465 times 200 bushel is 930, I think, dollars per acre of revenue, right? That's what our revenue is. Now, we can't protect $930 per acre of revenue. What we can do is protect a percentage of that. And there are different coverage levels. I think they start at 75, 80, or 85%, right? And so the 75 and 85% levels are subsidized. Actually, the 85 is as well, but you only get subsidies up to 80%. So if you want to buy it above that, it's all out of your pocket. You have to pay for that additional coverage, okay? So at a 80% coverage policy, you take that 930 times it by 0.8, gives you roughly $744 per acre of revenue guarantee, okay? And so what that means is that one of
two things can happen, or really there's probably more than that, but there's two major components to figuring out what your revenue per acre is: yield, price. Okay, so those same things that we use to calculate that guarantee are what we're using to determine whether or not you would have a claim. So if you had a 200 APH and the price is the same in the fall as it was in the spring, right? 465 in the spring, and it's the same in the fall or higher, I believe. Then the only component that comes into play, you don't have any price loss there, but if your yields were bad, then it could trigger a payment. So say your APH is 200 and you have 80% coverage, well, that means that your yield would have to be below 160 bushels per acre before a payment is triggered. Now, in my opinion, if you have a 200 APH, 160 average is a crop failure. That is an absolute disaster of a yield for the year. And so it would take a major weather event for that to happen, whether that's a drought, a significant amount of flooding that's causing major problems, severe disease infestation or insects or something that we didn't control or couldn't control or whatever. But the likelihood of a farm with a 200 APH having a sub 160 bushel yield in a year, it's pretty low, which is where that insurance comes in. Now, the other side of that is the price, and this has been much more volatile over the last several years. So 465 is the spring crop insurance price. If the price is, say, 80% of that, and I didn't do that math, this fall, whatever that number is, say it's, I don't know, let's find out. Hold on. 372. So say the price is 372 or less this fall, and we have 200 bushel corn, so we're right at our APH, but the price is at 370. Well, that would also trigger a payout, right? Because our revenue, combining those two numbers, would fall below that 744. That is what our crop insurance guarantee level would be with that 200 APH. Okay? So what's much more likely to happen is both of those numbers fall somewhere in the middle, right? So if we have above average yields, chances of a payout triggering very low. If we have good yields and an above spring price guarantee price, chances of a payout triggering pretty low. If the price falls to, say, 425 and our yields fall to 180 or 185, now you're on that borderline of both of those things combining to potentially cause us to fall below our 80% revenue protection guarantee. So some farmers will only pick a 70% 75% coverage, which means that instead of $744 or whatever, those numbers would be less. So you'd have to have an even bigger loss before a payment would be triggered. But it's cheaper, right? It doesn't cost us as much, because even though this is subsidized, it is not fully subsidized. We still have to buy this protection. It still costs us a fairly significant amount per acre. And so different people will buy different amounts. Now, on the other side, if you want to insure more of your crop, you can buy up to 85%, but you're paying the entire cost of that premium increase to do so, but your payments would trigger faster. So we have always pretty much stuck with the 80% level. It seems to be the best bang for your buck, if you will. This year, the insurance prices are a little bit cheaper than they have been in the past, at least for us, because we're not insuring as many dollars. With a lower spring price than what we've seen in the past, we don't have as many guaranteed dollars as what we've had in the past, so the insurance premium is a little bit cheaper. It's not really a good thing, but it is a good thing that we're not paying as much for our crop insurance, I guess. So there are all kinds of enhancements and things that you can add on to this. One of the biggest reasons that we have collected on crop insurance in the past has been a quality loss. Quality loss is a component of this where I think it was in 2023, we had a bunch of vomitoxin in our corn. We didn't see that the last couple of years with how dry it has been. Usually if you have a really wet fall, that can be an issue, and we haven't had that lately. But in 2023, we had a fairly wet fall. Our corn got a lot of this vomitoxin in it, and it reduced the quality, reduced the price that we were able to get for it when we sold it at the elevators. So the crop insurance stepped in, paid us on what our losses were there, because it took us below our 80% coverage by the time they went through their formulas and figured out what that discount would be. So we've made some money. No, I shouldn't say that. We've lost less money because we've had crop insurance in the past, so we've gotten some payouts, but it's certainly not an every year thing. It definitely does not trigger all the time. We did not get anything last year, and last year was it was an okay year. It wasn't a great year, but it wasn't a horrible year either. So let's see what else. There are some other additions and enhancements that you can get. One of them that's being talked about a lot that we went spent a lot of time on today is this ECO, or enhanced coverage option, I think that stands for, where essentially you can buy from 86 up to 95% coverage, but that number is calculated off of a county average. And again, it is by county. So like in Hillsdale County, Michigan, where the majority of our ground is, in the Michigan side here, essentially if we bought that coverage, it would trigger if the county average fell below 95% of the normal county average, or the county APH, I guess you would say. And so while that could potentially pay out and there could be some dollars there, it's also entirely likely, or plausible, I guess, that our farm could have a significant loss in a year, and the rest of the county gets more rain or whatever reason, they have better crops, and we would get nothing from that. So in my mind, that doesn't really insure our farm for anything. It's a gamble of whether or not you think the county is going to have a good year or a bad year. Likewise, the opposite could be true, where we have a really good year, the rest of the county has terrible yields, and we come out way ahead because we would collect on a crop insurance policy while still having really good crops. So I don't quite understand how the reasoning for having that as an option. I know a lot of people are taking it and using it, and we did on one of our policies, but not others. And so I get that, but if I'm a lawmaker, somebody that's putting these insurance programs into place, I don't quite understand where that fits into a risk management profile, because it's not managing the risk on your farm at all. Unless your yields are very, very closely correlated to county yields very consistently, you're gambling against the county and you're not gambling against your own yields. So I'm not a huge fan of some of those additional ones. There's another one called SCO. That one's a lot harder to get to trigger, but it basically covers between 80 and 85%, but it's based on the county average, not your own average. So yeah, that's kind of my little short crop insurance talk. I can try and answer questions if you have some. I'm, in general, not a huge fan of the program at all. I think crop insurance allows farmers to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do and make some stupid management decisions that we shouldn't make sometimes, versus doing everything you can to produce a crop. And so we go way back to 2019. This was kind of before I had started making these videos, but if you remember 2019, or at least if you're in our area, we had an extremely wet spring, wettest spring I have ever remember. And it was so wet, in fact, that we did not plant a single kernel of corn or soybeans until June 4th. June 4th is extremely late. In fact, the crop insurance cutoff for planting corn in our area is June 6th. Like, if you don't have it in by then, you start losing coverage percentages for every day after that you plant. And so we did get a little bit of corn planted that year. But then we took advantage of a crop insurance clause or program called Preventive Plant, where they basically pay you to not plant a crop. And the idea behind that is, once you get past June 6th, the likelihood of a loss is so much higher that the crop insurance would rather settle with you and take a prevent plant payment, which is less than what our guarantee is, but we don't have the expense of seed and fertilizer and all the things that you would put into growing a crop. And so you take a reduced payout to just not plant it at all versus having a disaster of a crop in the fall. Fine. I was glad to have that year, because you don't know, right? When it's the middle of June, it's been too wet to do anything. You're mudding anything in, a crop in, just to try and get something planted if you can. That preventive plant payment sounds decent. And I don't remember what the formula is. I don't know if it's 230 or guarantee or something like that. It was enough to pay our fixed cost, but you weren't making any money on it, right? However, what ended up happening that year is we got a really good window to plant beans about the 26th to 28th or 25th to 28th of June, which is very late. We could have taken prevent plant on all of those soybean acres as well. We chose not to. We chose to plant the crop, even though it was late. And we ended up having beans yield in the mid-50s, even planted that late. Had I known that was going to happen, I would have planted all the ground that we took Prevent Plant on corn to soybeans too. Like we would have just planted everything we could, even if it was late, and just had, double or almost double the amount of soybeans that we normally had because we couldn't get the corn planted. But because we had taken Prevent Plant on the corn, we weren't allowed to grow a crop there. Fair, right? They paid us to not grow a crop, so we're just not going to grow a crop. But if the crop insurance program wasn't there, we would have planted those beans. That was a better agronomic decision. It was a better decision in the long run, would have been a better decision in the long run, but we didn't know that at the time. You made the best decision you could with the information that you had. So it comes down to the fact that, you've got to have that protection in case of a disaster, right? We buy insurance on our houses and our cars for the disaster, right? We don't want to claim it. We don't want to use it. It's just really hard when you have to pay that premium every year, and it's not cheap. To never have a claim on it or to not use it. And so I don't know. I would prefer if the crop insurance was more of a stand on your own 2 feet kind of thing and not subsidized as heavily so that the people that want it can get it. But the problem is if you take away that subsidy, then nobody buys it and the whole program will collapse. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. It's probably a bad thing. It probably is. But I think that it allows some of the bigger farmers to get bigger because they have a floor, right? They can't lose too much money. And I don't know. I know that it's promoted as a way to help the smaller farmers and stuff, which is great. I want to help the smaller farmers. I don't know that crop insurance is having the effect that people think that it does, though. So anyway, we are 10 minutes into this rant, and you probably just done tired of listening to me. So questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll try and answer them. Anyway, on another note, I'm taking off out of here. Oh, I'm going to turn my temperature back down. So from some of you may remember from a whole year ago that I was a big part of the Michigan FFA Association a long time ago. Last year was my 20th anniversary of being a state FFA officer. Well, Michigan FFA's state convention is happening this week, and tonight they have a past state officer reception. I went to it last year. I'm going to go in again this year. Anna's going to come with me, my sister. She's also a past state officer in Michigan, so we're heading up there here this afternoon, and yeah, so that's why I'm taking off a little bit early today. So we're gonna head back to the farm, see how Xander's doing and what's going on with our planter. Probably tell him to get out of here a little bit early today, and then Anna and I are gonna get ready and go to that. All right, well, we're back down here. We've got a bit of an issue. So this one row has a different style. Just the one side of this one row. Is this the only one on the whole planter? There might be some on the top rank, but it had a different sized bolt in there, and we didn't get it off. It got rounded off. So we got to get that out of there. We're going to take this nut off and get the gauge wheel arm out of the way, and then we can work on this a little easier. Okay, once we got the nut off there, I was able to get a pipe wrench on. We've wrecked this, so we will be replacing it now, but it did come off. I don't know why this one's a different style. I don't know if we had another one that we wrecked before and had to replace it, and so this is what we got. If there's only one, there should probably be another one in the parts bin, but it's like this. They update these every now and then. So anyway, it's off. Anna and I made it up to Lansing for the FFA convention. We're a half hour early, so we had to make a stop at the dairy store. We got our Sesquicentennial Swirl ice cream, which I believe they now call Spartan Swirl. But when I was here, it was the 150th anniversary at Michigan State. They called it Sesquicentennial Swirl. It's the best. If you're ever in Lansing, make sure you get yourself some. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you guys tomorrow.